Hi, welcome. I'd like to welcome you to my dog training podcast, where I have a very special guest on today, Kevin Murdoch from Anti-Dog Trainer. So welcome, Kevin.
Appreciate you having me, Dale. Thank you.
Yeah, so Kevin, I really appreciate you coming on, and I guess just want to kind of go over some, I talk about the current state of the dog training world, but maybe just get a little background on you for people who don't know, like who you are and what you're about and your experience. Maybe Kevin, just for our audience, just maybe tell us a little bit about you and how you got into it.
Sure. Yeah, so I've been working with dogs for 15 years, and
Mhm.
um I had actually the I watched a documentary when I was, I think, 20 or 21, and it was called
Mhm.
Earthlings.
Okay.
And that documentary sent me on quite a journey, but there was a section in it. The whole documentary was about the 5 different ways we exploit animals, and there was
Mhm.
a section in there about companionship. And actually,
Okay.
I don't know if you know who Joaquin Phoenix is. He narrated the
Yeah,
documentary,
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
because he's, no, I'm not a vegan, but he's like a big vegan activist and so on and so forth. But
Mhm.
there was um, a line in that documentary that really, it's always stuck with me. And he said it's showing clips of, not to be graphic, but there are, you know, all the dogs that get euthanized in the shelter system, the kill shelters. I mean, it literally showed like a dump truck dumping bodies of dogs into landfills. And
Mhm.
he said, if we're going to take animals into our home, are we going to actually consider whether or not we can truly meet the needs of that animal? And if we
Mhm.
can't, then we really have no business doing it.
Mhm. Mhm.
So seeing that kind of imagery really sent a message to me, and I thought, what can I do as an individual
Mhm.
to help alleviate something like as simple as taking a dog out of a shelter.
Sure.
So before I got my first dog, I had decided I was going to get my first dog, and before I did that, I wanted to learn as much about dogs as I could. So
Mhm.
I started, just, back then there was still the internet was still developing, but you could still find a lot. There were still a lot of resources online.
Mhm.
YouTube was kind of in its early days, um,
Mhm.
but you could still get around. And so I started finding different sources of information. I started learning about what biologically, what is a dog supposed to eat? How do dogs operate? And this is so the whole social component of canines, like I go back 15 years with this sort of thing. So I
Mhm.
never started in the quote, like the regular training aspect of things.
Mhm. Okay.
From day one, my whole knowledge base has been, how do dogs operate socially,
Mhm.
you know, um, and everything built from there.
Mhm.
So I took my first dog in, Kaylee, and I started applying some of the things I was learning. Back in the day, that was like when the dog whisperer was big. So I was
No,
watching a
sure.
lot of Caesar Milan,
Yeah.
and I had discovered an individual named Brandon Fouché.
Mhm.
um, and so those were my two main influences.
Mhm.
Um, I didn't really read books and go about it that sort of way. I didn't have a mentor. I was
Mhm.
just taking information mostly from those two, and then kind of it was like a process of trial and error on my own
Sure.
dog.
Mhm. Mhm.
And really, the conclusion you come to is that it's more of a process for you than the dog. It's not
Yeah,
really,
sure. Mhm.
yeah, the dog is a secondary thing. It's
Mhm.
it's a reflection of you, but it's not a one-to-one mirror. It's a little bit different. Like the dog
Mhm.
will show you where you're at,
Mhm.
but not in the way I think people see it, as like this direct thing. And I've not found it to be the case,
Mhm.
where, say, and I mentioned this in the debate with Mark, where you show the right kind of strength and you communicate the right way, the dog will reflect to you in a different way than,
Mhm.
say, if you take a different approach to things.
Sure.
You'll get issues. The dog
Mhm.
will reflect issues back to you if
Yeah.
you don't communicate in the correct way.
Mhm.
So about 6 months down the road, I was starting to kind of figure things out, and I was starting to make a lot of progress with Kaylee. And then I decided, well, you know what? Let me get another dog,
Mhm.
and that's when I got Bruno. Now
No.
Bruno was like, as you talk about, like the 1% dog,
The
like
one I
1%.
said that, and it's interesting, just to go back, you talk about the reflection. That's like, I talk about that level, almost like honesty with
Yeah. Oh
nature
yeah.
and dogs, that
Yeah.
really, no matter what's going on in our own life, things can be falling to pieces, and I've been there.
Yeah.
It's like, it's that mirroring thing where you say, well, the dogs represent a purity and an honesty that is a constant. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Absolutely. Yeah.
so yeah, so
Yeah. And
so
it's,
anyway, yeah.
yeah. So, and to that point, yeah, it's one thing, like a dog will never lie to you, and a dog will always
Mhm.
show you
Yeah.
the truth of the
Hmm.
situation.
Hmm.
No matter what situation you're in, the dog will let you know where you're at, you know?
Hmm. Absolutely.
Um, so I got Bruno,
Hmm.
and Bruno was just a different animal. Bruno was, Kaylee was more submissive, but it was interesting because she was more submissive minded. But when I got her, she didn't want to follow me. She didn't want to
Hmm.
listen.
Hmm.
She, she would get off the leash and run away,
Hmm.
you know. So even though she was more of now she was half pit, she was half pit, half
Yeah.
whippet, which is a
Hmm.
very odd mix.
Hmm.
But even though she was more of that temperament, that
Hmm.
submissive minded, she still had it in her to say, I'm not following you,
Hmm. Hmm.
because I wasn't there, but it was after so many months, I started to see that change.
No, okay.
Now,
Hmm.
I still wasn't there yet, but I had
Hmm.
gotten Bruno.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And Bruno was really the test. Bruno
Hmm.
really, um, because he was dog and human aggressive, and he was dominant aggressive. It wasn't a fear thing with him. It was, I'm the big bad boy on the block, and I'm just here to mess you up because I can. And
Sure.
he didn't care. If a
Hmm.
dog challenged him, he'd fight him, and it wasn't a
Hmm.
fight. It was like, I'm trying to kill you. Like, I've
Hmm.
never seen bloodlust in a dog's eyes.
Hmm.
To this day, I don't think I've ever really encountered it to the level that Bruno took it to. Like, it was
But,
literally,
but
his mind
but
was
yeah, that's
gone.
interesting. That's interesting because, like I said, I've said before, it's impossible to gain insight without that 1 percentile dog. That dog's
Right,
going to push you right to the crazy edge.
right,
That's in a lot of these trainers out there. I find they haven't been there, or they bought them out. You know what I'm
right.
saying? So anyway, so go on, Bruno. So how long ago was this with Bruno? How many years ago, Kevin? Did you?
That was, I think that was 2010. I think I got
No.
him.
Mhm.
So I got both my dogs in the same year. So
Oh,
so they were both, 15 years back. That
mhm.
they were my first two dogs.
Okay.
Um, but to your point, before I continue, I do want to. I've met a lot of people. They claim that they have this knowledge and expertise and so on and so forth, and I'm like, I guarantee you wouldn't have lasted a day with Bruno.
Mhm,
I
mhm.
guarantee you wouldn't have known what Robert Hines, you wouldn't have known what to do with Bruno. You wouldn't have
Mhm.
made it.
Yeah.
Sorry, you would
Yeah.
you wouldn't have made it.
No, no,
um,
hey, listen, I understand completely. No, I understand. Like I talk about Kaiser being the most aggressive dog in the Jack situation. I've done a couple podcasts on that, but Jack says the same thing. Jack interacts with like 10 dogs a day, and he just shakes his head at all these social media trainers out there because he knows
right.
they're lying their faces off. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Oh
It's
yeah,
incredible.
yeah, yeah. This is a dog that, yeah, like you say, it really reveals the truth of
Yeah.
things. These are the
Hmm.
dogs that people won't touch.
Hmm.
They avoid putting them on social media because I think they know that it will expose
Hmm.
just the lack of depth they have.
Hmm.
But it also exposes dogs like that really show you the true nature of a dog,
Hmm.
because people want to ignore.
Yeah, you got a dog coming in
Greg,
the back.
yeah, Greg Goose is coming in.
That's
People want
cute.
to ignore these simple fundamental principles of nature, just like dominance or
Hmm.
the hierarchical nature of a dog. And I'm sorry, but these dogs show you the truth of that
Hmm.
nature. There's
Sure.
no ignoring it.
Yeah.
The day I brought Bruno home, and I mentioned this in the debate, he immediately was trying to control the environment. I said 2 bowls of food down. He looked over at Kaylee and growled at her. She
Hmm.
submitted immediately. She didn't want to challenge him.
Hmm.
So I had to let him know, this is not acceptable.
Hmm.
So then I allowed, he stopped, and then I
Hmm.
allowed them to eat. He swallowed that turkey neck so fast and went over and ripped her turkey neck out of her mouth. I had to get it
Hmm.
back from him, But that was
Mhm.
the thing. I didn't show fear to him. I took it right out of
Mhm.
his mouth, gave it back to her, and then I had to block him from getting back to her.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't like that, so he went
Oh,
to try to pee on my bed,
okay. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So then
That's interesting, right? Yeah, it's like
right,
we call it
right,
a counterbalance, right? Trying to count, you know, it's a control, right? To say, hey, I can't
yeah,
have this, so I'm going to express this way. Yeah, that's interesting.
exactly. Oh, you're gonna
Yeah.
challenge me? I'm
Yeah.
going to try and pee on your bed. No, 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 no.
That's right. Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's
I had
funny.
to just make it clear to him that no, I run the show here.
Mhm.
And if I hadn't done a little bit of research beforehand, I wouldn't have known what to do with this dog either.
Sure. Hmm.
So having at least the fundamental knowledge
Hmm.
ahead of time put me in a position to where I brought this dog home, and he started to express that. And I was not aware that he was like that. The shelters, I don't know if they just hid it or if he didn't show that side of himself when he was with them. Because
Hmm.
he was on the news. He was pet of the month. They were trying to get him. He was on the news as pet of the month, and he wasn't being like that with the people
Well,
on the
because I
show.
talk about the aspect of the relationship dynamics, right? Dogs are in there because we had the same situation years ago where when I was in Tennessee, Bianca's like, "Look, Dale, you know, my mother-in-law just got a dog. Let's go in to get a dog from the shelter." And it's like you're looking for the least worst one. But now you
Right.
understand, like, in order to reveal that, because they all look okay in there, and this is why I talk about
Hmm.
these trainers like going in with treats in their hand and trying to say,
Yep.
"Oh," and it's like, "Why is this dog even in here? This dog looks so great."
Right.
Like, hey, like,
Right.
how's the truth revealed? Right now, getting more dialed in, and then we got Polly, and Polly passed away, a while ago. Now we got a new dog from the shelter, but Polly at the time, she was in my. It's funny, she's in my mother-in-law's vehicle, and my mother-in-law was trying to move her, and she's like showing her teeth. And it's like,
Yeah.
Dale,
Yep.
and so we've been there, but it's interesting what you say that because yeah, dog of the month. Well, based on what exactly? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right. Right. And I think because he was a very, very smart dog. Both him and Kaylee were extremely intelligent dogs. So I think he just kind of I don't think actually in that case the shelter, because sometimes the shelters will use flowery language to hide serious issues.
Okay.
That wasn't the case with him at all. I mean, they told me he was, he had two owners before he was a year and 1 month. I got him when he was a year and 1 month. And the last owner, they said, yeah, he was tied up outside 24 hours a day, and he was very destructive in the home.
Okay.
So I think they just didn't know what the hell to do with him. And
Sure.
his demeanor towards certain, and I established there was a pattern. It wasn't just all
Mhm.
dogs or people he'd go after. It was dogs that were overexcited or fearful. He'd
Mhm.
try to kill him, and
Yeah.
people that were nervous or so anything that showed
Mhm.
weakness, he wanted to go
Mhm.
after it.
Oh, yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
dogs that didn't challenge him, that were calm, that were respectful, he had no problem with those dogs.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
Um, So I think just maybe when he was in going through the system, he just didn't show that side of him. I think he knew better. He kind of
Mhm.
played his cards right. But
Yeah.
when I
Yeah.
took him home, it was like, all right, no holds barred. I'm taking control of this environment. And
Mhm,
I had
mhm.
to make it clear that that wasn't going to be the case. And I think from day one, I earned just enough respect from him to where he never tried to pee on my bed again. He never tried to take food out of Kaylee's mouth again, and he never growled at her over food.
Okay. Mhm.
Um, but then there was a whole journey after that of because when that I started to discover, I would take him and Kaylee to the dog park, and I started to see the other side of him where he's going after these dogs, trying to fight him, trying to kill him, and then I'm just like, well, okay, what do I do with this? You
Mhm,
know?
mhm, mhm.
So he really gave me the crash course on a different type of aggression,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
being able to go through that journey with him and build the relationship with him and my other dog, and then being able to figure out the social dynamics that are necessary to understand for maintaining, say, a hierarchy between me and two dogs. And then of
Mhm,
course I started to realize I had a knack for it,
mhm.
and so I started working with other people's dogs.
Okay. Mhm.
And I was working with friends' dogs, and I was just kind of I was testing myself out, where I realized I was starting to understand these things, and I was
Sure.
seeing the results. I was like, I think I got something here. So I started to practice a little bit with other people's dogs, and I was bringing dogs in in the place that I lived at. So
Mhm.
there were times when I had three, four, five dogs in my place,
Okay.
and I'm seeing these things play out in a different way than I think your average, say, quote, trainer is being able to throw yourself into the fire like that and see these things firsthand, especially very early on in my journey.
Mm-hmm.
It gives you a much different perspective on behavioral issues than someone who goes to a mentor who subscribes to balance training or force free training. You're not seeing the truth of these things going to
Well,
individuals like that who show you a very superficial way of
well, they
seeing
are,
things.
because and I say this because, it's that idea that's popular out there that, I keep talking about training and learning based exercise, but it's this whole thing about, gets into this thing, what is training? I talk about, it's a intervention, a false path of an intervention. It's not a learning based exercise the way it's being presented. But you're right, because because as soon as you identify as somebody like balance or force free, you're pegging yourself in.
Yeah.
You're coming to agreement with a certain idea of things, and then once you do that, to actually accept that there's problems or be willing to make a trade-off, that's almost it. I would say that's almost impossible for some of these individuals, because they're not incentivized to do the right thing now, because they're making money at the wrong thing. You know what I'm saying? The culture is
Yeah.
so twisted, so twisted. So getting back to your journey, so how many years ago, like when you started to help other people's dogs, Kevin? How long ago was that when you started to make that?
Well, actually, I started that pretty early on, but I knew that I was still learning and testing myself. So I was charging people 20 bucks, 20
Wow.
bucks for a session. So I was
Wow.
like, I don't feel right charging people a lot of money. I was young too,
Sure.
but people were more than happy to cut me a check for 40 bucks for a couple hours
Mm-hmm.
of work. And I was able to get people the results they were looking for, because I wasn't, some of the issues that I was dealing with weren't that serious, but I was working with aggressive dogs too. So I was helping other people with, I remember there was a boxer named Lila. She had a dog aggressive issues.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that was one of my first dogs. And then there was a dog, Jasper.
Mm-hmm.
To this day, I think the scariest besides Bruno dog I've worked with, and that was early on too, is a beautiful black pit bull. But I think it was
Mm-hmm.
a mix because he was a very large dog, and he was like Bruno in that he wasn't, it wasn't kind of a fear aggression. It was a very dominant thing, and him and Bruno did not they did not get
Mm-hmm.
along. So
Well, yeah.
having him in my apartment, trying to
Mm-hmm.
work through that, um, that was one of the first experiences I had where, I had two serious dogs on my hands,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
I was able to figure some things out, especially outside on a leash with the two of them, walking them at the same time without them fighting each other.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of growth even with just having that one dog. But then there was a period of time where, um, because I was working with more and more people's dogs, but it seemed to be, I keep finding these people that wanted to hire me, and they thought, oh, he'll just train my dog and I don't want to do the work. And
Mm-hmm.
I got tired of the excuses people would make. And
Mm-hmm.
so I actually stopped doing it for a while because I realized I'm not here to train your dog. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah. Sure.
This is a thing between you and the dog, and I'm just trying to show
Mm-hmm.
you what the problem is.
Mm-hmm.
But then I realized, there was a period of time where I just wasn't working with anybody's dogs, but I would
Oh.
I would I would
Mm-hmm.
still handle other dogs and help people out here and there.
Mm-hmm.
But then a lot of the focus was, okay, how do I get Bruno to a place where like we don't have any problems anymore? So
Mm-hmm.
he was my main focus at that point.
Sure.
Um, and so then I was able to figure that out,
Okay.
and I got it to a point where like people knew me in the neighborhood as the guy who'd walk both my dogs and read a book. That was kind of like my
Mm-hmm.
thing, where people would stop me and be like, I see you doing that every day. You walk your dogs and read a book, and like, how do you do how do you
Yeah.
do that? I
Yeah.
said, well, it didn't happen overnight. A lot of practice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, but then some time passed, and I realized, I thought, I'd really like to do this again, because I always felt that it was kind of like my calling, like something I
Sure.
should be
Sure.
doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I thought, well, maybe there's a better way I can convey this to people and get people. Maybe I can give people more when they hire me, to help them understand that I'm not here to train your dog, and what is the process or the system I can use to help people achieve the success that they're looking for. Maybe the fault was with me. Maybe I wasn't communicating these things well enough.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So then that's when I created a system of, okay, when someone hires me, you know, and I'm on the phone with them, I'm going to explain to them the social nature of these problems. I'm going to explain to them these aren't training issues. I'm going to explain to them, like, here's what you get. Like, I'm going to come and assess the problem. I'm going to start coaching you through how to interact with your dog, and then I'm going to create. That's why I started creating the instructions or the daily protocol that I give people now, where I can lay this down in a very simple step-by-step way based on
Mm-hmm.
whatever issue we're having, whatever we went through over that first session.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that that was really that was the thing I was missing was, okay, I found that when I give people this protocol, or like this very simple, easy to understand kind of instruction manual on the issues pertaining to their dog and them,
Mm-hmm.
people were having a lot more success with that. So then I
Sure.
realized, okay, that was the thing I was missing before that really is making all the difference now. And now I'm not really running into people so much who expect me to train their dog, because I'm
Mm-hmm.
giving them all the tools they need to succeed. And they're really, I think I have such a much deeper understanding of these things now than I did
Mm-hmm.
before. And
Mm-hmm.
that's also helping me communicate these problems to people in a way that's it's just very easy for them to digest, and they can see things. Because when I go to someone's house and I see the problem, I step in and show them how I would interact with the dog. And so the person can see the difference in their dog right in front of
Oh,
them.
absolutely. Yeah.
And so that's really what makes them understand, like, okay, the problem is me. Okay, well, okay, how do I show me how to do that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so the wheels start turning, and they can connect the dots right in front of them. They're seeing the change right in front of them. And
Mm-hmm.
so then it's just a matter of, okay, let me coach you through. Let's get you to a place where now you have that relationship with your dog, and the dog sees you the right way. And then
Sure.
that's the challenge, really. The dogs to me are easy now. The challenge is
Just
getting
the
the
people.
person.
I
Yeah.
always say I barely look at the people. I mean, I barely look at
It,
the dog. Like the
right,
dog to
right.
me, I'll go in, I'll briefly look, but I'm looking right at
At
95% of the time.
the
It's
owner.
the human. It's the owner.
Yep.
That's right. So during your process, do you mostly do like the home visits, Kevin, or
Yes.
do you take dogs in also at the same time, or what does that kind of look like for you?
Most it's 99% home visits.
Okay.
Um and this is why I have a series on my channel called Board and Train, excuse the language, bullshit, Board and Train
Yeah.
bullshit.
Sure. Yeah.
Um and I get people that call me sometimes. Like, I had a person call me the other day and say, I noticed on your profile, like, you don't do board and train. And I said, no, I don't. And let me tell you why. And I told them that,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because I run into clients all the time who said, yeah, we sent our dog to a board and train and they came back and everything was good at first, but now the dog's like, we're right back to where we started. Or the dog listens for the person who did the board and train, but
Yeah.
won't listen to
Well,
us. And
speaking
it's
of that,
like,
it's a great point because, like I said, I do board and trains, but I'm very careful. I only do it for 2 weeks because,
yeah,
considering it is about the originator of the relationship, it's about that dog owner, and so
yeah,
people, have a certain expectation. So I tell them, well, consider it more like a boost. But even when I'm doing a board and train, I'm making sure they're heavily involved in that. And
right,
so it's more for people that are in say, with an aggressive dog in a really kind of desperate situation.
right, right.
So I'll do that to alleviate the stress from the human end, get the
Sure.
dog going. And so you have to. So I say any trainer out there who's offering a board and train for longer than 2 weeks, they're shifting
Yeah,
the focus onto them because the
yeah,
dog could change for them, but then the method itself matters as well. So once you understand that, no, it's got to be about that person. I'm very careful. I won't even do a board and train until I do at least one home visit session and make
right,
sure it's even a good fit for them. Because, like you said, it's
right.
better for the home visit because that's where they're spending the time with their dog. That's the dog's comfort zone. And you want to keep the focus on the owner. Absolutely. So
Yes.
that's a great point, Kevin. Yeah.
Yeah, and because I will, there have been a couple of instances where there was serious issues,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a dog who frequently comes on my channel. His name's Grizzy. He's a chocolate lab, and this is
Mm-hmm.
Grizzy is a great point as to why I don't like these people that think breed is everything. No, not
Mm-hmm.
no, because Grizzy's a chocolate lab, and most people don't associate chocolate lab. They think, labs are typically known for being kind of easygoing,
Mm-hmm.
middle of the road dogs and not really challenging. Well, Grizzy as a puppy was not that way.
Yeah.
And so Grizzy was one of those situations where, because he was really disrespecting the mother in that equation.
Mm-hmm.
And her husband we were making progress with Grizz, and then her husband went out of town, and Grizz just started going after her.
No. Okay.
And she was at a point where she's like, Kevin, I don't know if we can keep this dog. I can't do this anymore. So at that point, I said, let me take him for a couple days. You need a break.
Mm-hmm.
Bob's out of town.
Mm-hmm.
Let me take him for a couple days. And that
Sure.
really was the turning point. He stayed with me for a couple days. Her
Mm-hmm.
husband came back to town.
Mm-hmm.
I got Grizzy, I was able to work through things in just a couple of days with Grizzy that she wasn't able to do. And so
Mm-hmm.
once he came back into town and I gave them Grizz back, things went on a much different trajectory there. So there's only been a couple times where I'll take a dog in if like
Mm-hmm.
situation's critical, or
Yeah.
like
Sure.
say we have a seriously aggressive dog and it's like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
you can't really handle this. Let me take the dog for a
Mm-hmm.
little period of time. Let me
Sure.
work through some of these things, and
Mm-hmm.
then we'll move things back to the home environment, and I'll start to coach you through these things.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So I guess so we'll get into so what area are you in, Kevin? Where's your training? Like, what's your training area? Like, what area of the country you work out of?
I'm over in Illinois. I'm in the Chicago suburbs.
Okay,
And
Chicago.
so I don't really like the city. So I'll serve people like on the outskirts of Chicago, but I
Mm-hmm.
don't like to go in the city. So I serve, I have clients that are like an hour away, some of them.
Oh, okay.
So
Mm-hmm.
I'll travel a little bit, but most of my clients are local.
Mm-hmm.
Although now that I have more of a social media presence, I have people reaching out to me from all over the world. Like
Great.
there was
Okay.
an individual in Scotland who was having issues with their dachshund, but we've got them to a good place.
Mm-hmm.
There was
Mm-hmm.
an individual from Canada who
Okay,
was
great.
having issues, and so to me, that's it's been an interesting test, is being able to coach people through things without ever having met their dog.
Yeah.
Sometimes they'll send me videos, but just the descriptions that they give.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's really the test to me. Is like if you can hear a problem and know how to know exactly what's happening just because of
Mm-hmm.
the description, because you've done it, you've worked through that issue so many times, and
Sure.
then being able to produce results for somebody who lives on the other side of the world with a dog
Mm-hmm.
you've never met.
Yeah.
That's a true test of your knowledge,
Oh, sure. Yeah, yeah,
Um,
sure.
so
Yeah.
I'm very proud to be able to say that I've been able to help people, who aren't even in America, and
Mm-hmm.
I've never met their dog.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Well, it's a testament to what, your foundation and what your insight. And like I said, even like you mentioned about having the 1 percentile dog, I think that really does play a tremendous role in getting to a level where you can see what the answers are for people. Like, because
yeah,
it's like without being pushed that way. And I say that because it seems funny, everyone I've encountered or help as like getting to a trainer level, it's that dog that's going to push them because and so it's like it can seem like a negative experience at first for people that are struggling in that, but when they come on the other side of it, it's actually the greatest thing ever.
oh
Can be
yeah,
the most challenging thing ever too, but
oh
also
yeah,
the
oh yeah,
also the most rewarding, but because it's going to let you give you that insight that you need to really be able to help other people the right way, and that's what
yeah,
it's about. So I'm going to transition here into some of what's going on in the dog training world. So, for me, little backstory there, when I started encountering some of this, the stuff going on the internet, the foolishness and because really years ago, it was kind of like me starting into the, training, kind of minding my own business on social media, and social media got going.
mm,
But there was a moment where I realized, okay, this is like a different kind of kettle of fish here with what's going on in
yeah,
dog training. We're looking around. But for me, what happened was it was this, I was on social media, Facebook. It was this anti-Caesar Milan group
yeah.
that came on to my. I didn't know they came on. No, they came into my stuff and started making all these derogatory comments about, Dale, you think you're Caesar Milan and going on, and I'm like, and that kind of interested.
I've had people say the same. I'm like, oh, you like, I'm like, that's an
Yeah,
insult to call
yeah,
me
well,
Caesar, like how?
yeah, well, I was just like, but it was just that moment saying, like, who are these people? Like, and so I went in and tracked down. I went in, so I'm like, I went into their area, and it was like, it is. I think the page still operates. It's like a anti Caesar Milan, and Caesar Milan's been like a major target since the
Oh yeah,
beginning. But then I decided to go in, and I started leaving some specific questions, like figuring, okay, you come into my area, and then I'm going to come into yours. But I'm going to ask questions here as to, okay, how you establishing certain things. And so I get banned pretty quickly out of the group. But I found that was just interesting because it was like saying, okay, well, I mean, you're going to leave all these derogatory comments, then you should be able to, support or what you're saying, be able to establish what you're saying, without, backtracking or banning people. And I guess that's what kind of got the ball rolling, is saying it almost like these people can't help themselves. It's almost like, if they had the answers, Kevin, they wouldn't, the dog training world wouldn't be the way that it is in the first place, with all this divisiveness and all this negativity. And so for me, that was kind of my moment to say, this is crazy. This is like, why are all these things happening? Why are there so much confusion? And why are dogs getting blamed? And why all these things happen? And I realized from my own journey with Ruben and all that, in that there's more to the relationship. There's depth to the relationship. There's something that makes dogs amazing. And for me, it was like appreciating even the memory of Ruben. Say, I'm not going to dishonor his memory. I'm going to figure this out. Like, I'm going to say that's so. I keep talking about the social aspect, which is something that you're touching on here a lot. Is that there's that, it's the relationship side of things, to say, okay, if we really truly love and care about dogs. And that's the thing that's lost. This thing that amazed me when you go on to some of these discussions. It's like, I say to myself, do these people even care about dogs? Like they're making it so much about them. It's like, if you really care about dogs, why aren't you stopping and asking the questions that you should be asking as to, like, what's really going on here? And so going into this thing here, I guess the question is, so how did, I guess I know a little bit of your backstory here as to Robert Hines and how things kind of got rolling, but let's get into, like, how did you get into the social media stuff here with starting to engage some of the foolishness, Kevin? What kind of brought you into that realm?
Well, just real quick before I answer that question, because I want to point out something about the depth of the relationship. I brought Grey Goose to, there's a local pet store that I'm connected with. They have my business cards there. I do free seminars there. And the last time I was there, the manager, and I offered everybody who worked at the store, and there's a veterinary office that I have my cards, and they let me, one of my clients goes there, and she highly recommended me. So they let me put my business cards in the vet's office.
Oh, great.
And so I offered everybody in those two settings, hey, I'll work for you for free, as a token of gratitude for letting me put my stuff in your office. I'll come work for you for free.
Sure.
So the manager had, I went to her house and I helped her work through some resource guarding. And so she seen me work. Well, I came in one day with Grey Goose, and she saw the way Grey Goose was looking at me, and she said, do you ever, any of your clients, do their dogs ever look at them the way Grey Goose looks at you? And I said, well, my other two dogs looked at me the same way, but my goal for every client is to build that relationship to such a degree between the dog and the owner that the dog looks at them that way. And
wow, that's a great, that's a really great statement, Kevin. That's really, that's insightful you even say that, because you recognize the difference. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So,
there's a way they look at it's an admiration in the way they look at you. And Petunia has that with her owner. And Petunia was one of the first videos, that Petunia the pit bull. And so that started kind of the Robert Hines thing with Robert Hines recently tried to make the statement that I started my whole social, like my YouTube career, because of him, or my YouTube channel started because of him. And I've built it off of him. And I'm thinking, Robert, I have 215 videos and 7 of them are about you. So to say that my whole channel is about you is kind of ridiculous. But the reason it all got started was because I had a debate with Robert back, I think it was April of last year, which he conveniently doesn't remember. And conveniently, the audio didn't record. Now, I didn't have my camera and everything back then, so I didn't have any. I was trying to record it on my phone, and just the recording software I had on it, it couldn't handle the 4 hours. So I didn't have I'm like, I'm just not even going to post this because it's not the whole thing.
Okay.
But he claimed that the audio messed up, and which I thought it was convenient because
that's a convenient, that's a convenient excuse.
Yeah, there were some moments in there that did not make him look very good. But there was a point where I was talking about Petunia, and he had said, "Well, show me this pit bull," and I said, "Gladly." So I actually rose to the challenge of somebody saying, "Hey, show me your work." So I said, "Sure," because I have it, so I'll gladly show it. So that's when I started that was that first video where I said the video to Robert Hines. That was literally the next day. I was because Petunia's owner had broken her ankle, so I was going to help her out, and I would just go to walk Petunia after work every day. And so the next day I took her out for a walk, and that's when I made that video, and I emailed it to him, and he never responded to it, but yet he claims to be so thorough about his email. And I never got a response to it. But then finally, that's when you had made a video on it. You had talked about
yeah, that's right. Yes.
yes. And actually it was your video was actually, Robert challenged me to show Petunia. And then you did a video on it because you had found it, because I commented on one of your videos and you clicked on and you saw the video.
Yeah.
And it was because of your commentary. That's why I started actually because remember I said, "Hey, you've been."
So I'm gonna get the blame for the reason you're
yeah. Well, yeah. Robert challenged me.
Right?
Yeah. Robert challenged me, and then you actually inspired me to post more.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah. No, it wasn't a bad thing, Robert. Dale, you inspired me to post more.
Okay. I'm glad I'm the catalyst for all this, because I seem to be getting a lot of the blame lately here on social media. It's just like I'm like a mock the flame or something here recently.
Right.
But that's funny because I remember seeing the video I remember seeing the video. I'm like, that dog looks like great, like off leash. It's a great example of, because you can tell that level of focus, right? And it's like, okay, what a great video to showcase. I'm like, okay, anti-dog trainer, who's this guy? And I thought it was funny. So even the anti-dog trainer. So explain how you came up with that title, Kevin, the anti-dog.
So the anti-dog trainer came about because like you, I have an issue with the dog train, like the training. Because these, to me, like the one thing we're a bit different on is I always say training is skill based, right?
Yeah.
But I know what you mean when you say training is not a learning endeavor, where you're saying if I show up and there's a behavioral problem, the process of working through that is not a learning thing. It's not a training, or it's not this is a social intervention. So for me, it's training is related to skills, and then the behavioral problems are socially related.
Well, it is, Kevin. I agree with you 100%. Like, I just don't, sometimes I guess part of me is I don't go into, like, people will ask, well, Dale, you really are, the dogs are learning, right? And that's true. Like, intent. I talk about intent, how I'm interacting, dog understands intent. So I do get into those aspects of it, but I don't, when the dog training community is like butting up against what I'm doing, I honestly don't pay it much mind, because I'm focused on the interactions part of it. Like, I'm focused differently. You know what I'm saying? So, but I agree with you 100% on what you're saying.
Definitely. Yeah. And I know what you mean when you say that, so that's just the only difference is because you build a relationship, you work through those issues. You can do all the skill-based training you want, like do whatever you want, because everything is lined up correctly. But since I'm not a dog trainer, because I'm not creating skills in the dog, I'm not a dog trainer, and I have very much disagree with, say, a dog trainer showing up to solve socially related problems when they don't understand the social nature of the dog. So I decided, okay, well, I'm very much against this idea of training behavioral issues. So that's where the whole anti-dog trainer idea came from. It's not that I'm anti-dog training in the sense that I'm against building skills in the dog, but I think there's a time and a place to do that. But if you have a dog that has behavioral issues, that's not the time for building skills in the dog. We gotta focus on the issue.
Well, it's a social. I talk about this there because it's like, it's not just some sort of robotic thing that's happening here where we're going in, and this is the thing about, I get into motivating responses from a dog that's already, the perceptions have already gone sideways, and the question is, well, what's the criteria these trainers are using to even establish the perception of dogs are changing the right way? It's all assumption based. It's inherently flawed, because they're totally superficially focused within the framework of responses. That's not what I'm doing. Now, the dog may end up into a sit position or a down, but it's the interaction part of it that I'm focused in on with those. I talk about those core ingredients: influence and control. That's the reveal. That's also what changes. So it's like breaking it down. So when I'm doing the service dog training, that's when you see this, you see the response part come online at a certain point of that process, a 3-month process. But the whole part of that process, the first part of it, I'm actually changing the perceptions, the focus of the dog the right way. Okay, through those core ingredients, and then gets to a point, certain point where the perception of dogs have changed at the right level. Then I'm starting to get into getting, motivating the dog to respond for certain, tasks. It could be picking up an object or whatever. So it's about going through a sequence for me. You know what I'm saying? And
right, absolutely.
most trainers, they're not doing that. They're jumping in and not even, there's no critical thinking, no nothing, just saying, okay, I'm just jumping in here. This is just about getting the dog to respond, do certain, and that's ridiculous. I mean, that's what I get into.
Right.
This is where trainers can't even really, when I say about the relationships, the motivator, they don't even know how to deal with that.
No, they don't know what that means. And that, to that point, that's another reason why I use that that's my username, is because I can't tell you how many people that have called me or say, well, Kevin, my dog, yeah, it knows sit, stay, come, and it knows all those basic commands, but it wants to bite me when I put a bowl of food down. And I'm like, well, so yeah, I'm very much against this idea, and that's where the anti part of it comes in. I'm very much against this idea of showing up to somebody's house and trying to teach obedience when, again, like you said, it's superficial. Like, to me, true obedience comes from building a high level of respect from
There
the
you go.
dog.
Yeah, exactly. That's right.
You'll get all the obedience. You don't have to teach the sit, stay, come, whatever, because the dog, there's such a high level of respect from the dog to you and you to the dog. There's that connection there.
Yeah.
That stuff just comes automatically. I
That's
don't
what,
need to do that.
exactly. That's right. Like, I'm not focused. So those things are how, even when I'm lining up commands and it blows their mind. I'm not even verbalized until 12 days into, if I'm doing a board and train, 12 days in. It's like lining up intent. It's about the perceptions changing, and then through association with verbalize and see all those things. It's like people can't get their heads around that stuff, because it's like the dog training world is become this superficial thing. It's like a drive-through thing where it's like it's just about people's emotions. Are you just like it's become.
And this is the issue I have with like, I look at the position statements on AVSAB or the veterinary behavioral, I forget what the other one's called. There's another one, two main ones, right? And everything, is centered around emotion, and it's they totally they say, oh, dominance doesn't exist, don't hire anybody. And and even in the AVSAB statement, it says anybody who advocates dominance theory or whatever, don't hire them. And I'm thinking, so you guys, so the biggest issue I see is people are promoting this lie, where they're saying dominance doesn't exist. Anybody who promotes this don't hire them. Oh, go about things in this all positive. Don't ever say no to your dog. There's no such thing as boundaries. The treat training, the positive only, and to me, that's I've had people like Grizzy was one dog where they hired a all positive individual before me, and he made their dog worse. So I had to show up and clean up his mess, and then get things on the right track, because that he didn't. And even the parents knew. The parents knew. They texted me and they said, "Yeah, wasn't quite the train of thought we were looking for, and now our dog's attacking us even worse than he was before." Like, but he was a treat trainer. He was one of those guys where it's like, oh, wait for Grizz to not attack you and then give him a treat. Wait for Grizz to not attack you and then they said the dog had to be attached to their hip the whole day, and they had to constantly have food in their hand. And then they're like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's the association. I talk about it's association. It's the context of agreeableness, control.
Yeah.
You have to put context to things. And this is where, and I was able to see this stuff up close and personal. People have no idea, even my journey years ago, where I was with a person who's like an expert when it comes to like clicker training and all this with this ideology. And I'm like, show me. Like, I want to see it up. If there's something I'm missing here, I want to see it. And she actually went with me to some sessions, and she would be. But I knew the hypocrisy right away because her own dog that was attached to her, because the dog would be humping her leg, and all this stuff would be going on, right? And but she'd be handing out advice. So I got to see this stuff because I'm like saying I want to line this up. And so her and I parted ways. We were actually a couple at one point, for briefly.
Oh yeah.
And you know, and it was just like it was so much. I got to see behind the scenes, but I was, and this is where she was like, Dale, watch this. She had her clicker trainer, and the dog would do a fantastic sit. But this dog was aggressive. This dog, if you get up on the bed or near the bed, the dog would try to attack you, right? And I'm like saying, I said, listen, but then she'd be so angry about anyone who would dare. You know, she didn't even really below the surface, didn't like what I was doing at all. But I'm like, hey, the truth is the truth here. I mean, this is really about caring about dogs, and you know, it should be about meeting their needs. You know, and so there's a level of connection that transcends this superficial petting for me. When we say dogs, it's about that level of harmony being, and that level of connection that stresses off the dog, and you're syncing up. And only people that are, this is where police canine trainers get it, yourself would get it, other people who have been at that level where it's like there's something a lot deeper here, and that's really fulfilling. It's really deep, and it's like real love. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think people really get that, because it's like, and then you know when I'm you know with dogs, I can't help but I'm going to go there. Like I'm going to move in that direction. That's the direction I'm always going to move in to achieve that for other people. And I'm nothing, and there's no barriers to that. You know what I'm saying? So
and to your point, where I don't think, because I would agree, I don't think these people care about dogs either. Because if you truly cared about the animal, you would want to understand the animal inside and out. And so for these people to say something is basic, a principle of nature, that dominance doesn't exist. Okay, well, you're already ignoring a fact of reality pertaining to the canine species.
Yeah,
because
absolutely. Yeah.
Every legitimate study that has been done has demonstrated that dogs are, in fact, hierarchical creatures, and they do form a pecking order. I'm sorry, and I've seen it with, when I have groups of dogs that I've worked with, I've seen this stuff play out every single time. And I lived with 2 dogs for 13 years. There was absolutely a pecking order, and everybody knew it. Everybody knew it. Everybody knew Bruno he was the number 1 dog, and everybody knew Kaylee followed him. And then, you know, that was just the way it is. And so when I have dogs come in here, Grey Goose makes it very clear to those dogs that she's the number 1 dog in this house, because she's the more dominant minded, even though she's a small little girl. She's a micro bully, but she's got a big attitude. And so that's just that's the way these creatures are. And if we don't acknowledge that, and we're doing a disservice to the animal, because we're basically trying to shove away this lie because it's uncomfortable to us. And we don't understand it. And of course, people associate dominance with all these. It's a dirty word now, where they think it's just, you got to yell and scream and be an asshole to your dog. And it's like, no, that's not at all. You have a total misconception of what this is.
Oh, absolutely. And they're taking, because what they're doing is they're not, I talk about not reconciling the reactions of dogs to the relationship. Like, so when you see the optics of how dogs will react in how you're interacting with them in terms of that's on display, challenge, right? A little bit.
Right.
Dogs not liking. And so they'll take the optics of that and they exploit it, you know, because their whole thing is about bribing dogs. They're about, you know, so it's like, the waters might look calmer in that moment. They're doing that. But, you know, actually the relationship isn't getting better in most cases, because that's not their ideology is within that permissiveness. So these dogs are like looking agreeable, but they're leading people into the big lie, the deception, say, hey, you're good to go, or your dog's getting better. And then bad things are happening all over the place, you know, and these trainers on social media, that's what they're doing. They're exploiting all this. So let's, I'm going to show the little clip here of leading into your discussion, your debate with Mark DeBose. And I'm going to bring up a little clip here in a moment here and get this screen up here so we can kind of see it, and just kind of getting your thoughts on this back and forth here. Let's see here. Let's see if we can get this up here. There we go. And so, here it is. I don't know if you can see it on your screen here.
I can see it. Yeah.
So I'm just gonna play a moment of this. So this is, like I said, this is, you know, through again, I guess this all started with Robert Hines, but leading into this debate over talking about the whole rooster mauling incident here. But let's play just part of this here.
This a authoritative, is that the right way of saying it?
Authoritative
Style of being. That's just not what they're about. They're more of a permissive type person, but yet you still can be able to get what you're looking for. Maybe not this perfection. Your dog is right next to your side and is always there all the time, but we can still be able to replicate that in a way that I can allow the dog to do what the dog needs to do, allow the dog to be the dog. Because I would almost guarantee your Grey Goose, she has something in her that she desires. And do you even like think about that or focus on that at all? Or you just say,
yes,
you
but
stay with me?
that's after we have after the power dynamics are aligned correctly, after she knows who controls everything, after she shows that she's respectful and going to follow the rules. But you could do whatever the fuck you want with your dog. That's when you can go train the dog. You want to build some skills in the dog because now everything is aligned.
Yep.
So yeah, so here, so just to put up a clip there of you guys had a great discussion. I thought, watching that debate, but there's a point, there's an example, a point there in that discussion where you're providing context.
Right.
And,
Right.
So looking back on that debate, how did you feel about that discussion, Kevin, in terms of just how that went? And I thought it went great, but
I thought it went great too, and I there were a few key points I wanted to hit in that discussion, and I hit every single one of them, and I liked that everything ended on a good note. Things got heated, but we ended on a good note, and I really liked that. But I just wanted to make sure that the things that we disagreed on were discussed, and the things that I took issue with, how Mark was going about things over the course of that week, were discussed, and so I feel like all that was accomplished. But yeah, in that particular clip, this is the thing that people like Robert Hines and these individuals like to do, is they'll take something out of context, and then they'll make general statements about it, like
100%.
and it's no, like Mark kept trying to reframe things in this way where I'm basically saying fuck the dog, or we don't care about the dog, or the dog never gets to be a dog. And no, all I'm saying is that there's certain steps we need to take first.
That's
and
right.
Then you can do whatever you want with the dog.
Well, and that's why I said like that. Yeah. And so they don't, they try to make it seem like, for example, I talk about there's a point in the relationship where things are going sideways. So there's a point in that where you're stepping in, just like a parent would step into a relationship problem with a selfish child at that point in the relationship, where it's the parent has to perhaps come into agreement with a different parenting style. They have to be in the child's airspace differently based on what's happening at that point in the relationship. So it's a point of the relationship. It's that point. But yeah, what they do, and you're right, is that they'll conflate it. They'll try to paint this wide brush to say, oh well, because you're doing that, then Dale's a controlling person. These statements, right, to say, well, no, of course everyone has a certain parenting style or an attitude about parenting or discipline or punishment, and that does define like your attitude about parenting. But if I have to deal with a relationship problem at a certain point with my child, it means that I have to engage differently at that point. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't mean that so even in my training videos, if people watch them, say they'll come off tyrannical when I'm dealing with some dogs because the structure is going to be increased. I'm going to be interacting a certain way. And so what Mark and Robert Hines and others like him, Zach George, all these individuals do, they come in and they just will take that out of context. They'll say, oh, that represents that Dale is a dog abuser, or Kevin's a dog abuser. And they're totally misrepresenting. They're totally misrepresenting. Yeah, they're misrepresenting everything. And that's why it's important, I guess, to have these conversations, right? To say that, to kind of set the record straight. To say, hey, these people are totally lying. That's what they're doing. And they're playing off a certain relationship dynamics to do that. And they're not providing proper context, or taking things out of, they're misrepresenting certain things. And that's easy to do, right? And especially because they're pandering to a certain audience at the same time. People that they're telling people what they want to hear, but then they're leaving these same people stuck with a relationship problem, and then bad things happen. Dogs get blamed. or someone
Right.
gets bitten, and then it's like, oh, then the blame shift. Oh, well, there must be something wrong with the dog, and how exactly how it goes down, Kevin, with these individuals.
Yeah, absolutely. There's one thing I noticed that often happens with this group is they'll, and not to keep bringing him up, but Robert does this where
Go.
like he challenged me to show Petunia. I showed Petunia. Wasn't good enough. Move the goalpost again. Oh, we'll show Petunia in with strange people, strange dogs. Well, I showed that too. Wasn't good enough. Move the goalpost again. Never once do these people acknowledge the dog, that like the results that have been achieved. Like, wait a minute. I thought all you guys wanted the dog to have the utmost freedom.
Yeah.
And the dog to be all the tools gone. Which I have multiple dogs on my channel where there's not even a collar on the dog. The dog has the utmost freedom, the off leash, whatever. If this is the criteria you guys say is the top of the mountain, and I'm at the top of the mountain, why are you never acknowledging where the dog's at? You want to attack me personally but as if I don't know what I'm talking about, when my dog is exactly where you guys say every dog should be.
Well, because they can't, right? Because it's a inconvenient truth to them because they're agenda driven. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm gonna put up another clip here, which I found very interesting with Mark DeBose, who he made an appearance with here at one point.
The dog daddy.
Pumping this guy up. So let me see here. Where's get this up and going here. Okay, here we go. Yeah, so this I found, if you can see this up on the screen here. And actually, you're the one that actually brought this clip forward, which was great. Because
I had a little, someone behind the scenes made me aware of this, so I will give that individual credit. And I know they're watching this, so thank you for pointing. Yeah, thank you, because I'm a bit of an internet sleuth myself, but thanks to this person for bringing this up to me.
Because I thought, so let's just play just a part of this very interesting clip of Mark DeBose at the Dog Daddy seminar. Here we go.
Mr. Dog Daddy out here is blowing up and going crazy on the YouTube and on all social media. So I think I came to find out the reason, because he's a real dog trainer, and people are in the need of real dog trainers today. And he's something that's going to be able to provide you with some real good understanding of how to be able to communicate effectively with your dog. I just want to see it in person, because videos and everything is kind of just, you don't really know. But when you see it in person, you know it's real in person. And that's why I say this is what I call real dog training. There's no games here. There's no magic here. It's just working with the animals. He clearly understands how to work with dogs.
So here, we'll stop it here.
Right.
So that's like I give you props here, because there's been several examples where you've brought forward some very profound insight into some of these individuals. Because again, when I saw that, I was like, hold on here a second. Like, how do you go from the Dog Daddy to Robert Hines? In fact,
right.
I'm still waiting. Just so people out there know, I'm still waiting to get a response back from Mark DeBose on my invitation to have a debate discussion. So I'm not hearing anything yet. I've made it very clear I'm going to have it, but because again, that's a point I'm going to be talking a lot about his journey, because part of it is when he admits to, and kind of connecting some pieces here. He talks about bottoming out with a dog on one of his videos, and this is why he transitioned over to Robert Hines. But then my question is, well, okay, you bottom out with a dog, but what's that mean for that dog? Or
right.
Other things that now you're going over to Robert Hines, and you're coming off like you have all the answers. And the thing that really bothered me, I put it out there, is that got my kind of back up in the air, was that I found out through a person I know, this is a fact, was Mark DeBose was mouthing off about me through a message saying that Dale destroys dogs. Now, to make that type of statement, you're going to get my attention, my special attention here, and that's what's kind of going on. Not that I'm looking to get back at DeBose, but I'm like saying, okay, now you're going to explain yourself here. Let's get into this, because if you're going to make statements like that about people, because you get tired of it after a while, because these people don't stop.
Oh yeah.
They just keep mouthing off, and like you said, they're taking things out of context. So right there is a good example of going from someone like the dog daddy, just giving him total props, and then you're moving over to Robert Hines, and then you're coming
Right.
off like everyone's wrong. Like, how's that even work? You know what I'm saying?
Well, the way I see it is and this is a problem that I see culturally, is there are a lot of and I'll put this exclusively on men. There's a lot of men who are lost, and they lack identity, their own identity. And so I think he went to the dog daddy side of things because he's trying to find answers, right?
Fine. Yeah, absolutely.
And clearly Augusto impressed him.
Yeah.
And so then that's what I made a comment on one of his responses to that video. Oh, yeah, he commented on that video and I responded to it. And I said, but Mark, because he said, well, I was doing the whole balance training thing and I was finding that I wasn't getting long-term results. And I said, but Mark, don't you think that maybe that's the misapplication of a method rather than the method itself? Or because Augusto clearly was doing quite well with the people and the dogs. And I've seen numerous testimonials from Dog Daddy long term where people are very happy with the results he's got.
Yeah, he does power play it. You know what I'm saying? Like, so those foreign influence controls in there. But again, there are issues there. I talk about that in some of my videos about the.
And I agree. Yeah,
but the point is, and to your point, is like, why are these trainers? I get into this even with my breakdown series I'm doing between Ivan Belnoff and Larry Crum. Larry Crum made a statement during his journey that, it's a point early on where he saw dogs screaming because of remote callers, and I talk about that. I talk about the stress loads on dogs, and when control and influence don't line up properly, it doesn't make sense to the dog. Then they're going to have issues. But then why are these trainers not doing a proper audit? Instead of like throwing the baby out with the bathwater, saying, okay, hold on here a second, let's kind of really take a serious look at what's going on. This is where I go through all these controversies on my Flipping the Script series to say these things are all symptomatic. Like all these things that keep happening in the dog training world aren't some sort of random accident. But why aren't these trainers actually seriously looking at, okay, there's more going on here? Like what's all the collateral damage of this stuff? So the thing, and that's why I'm speaking out to say, hey, and you're speaking out, but to say, okay, let's have a proper conversation here, and let's start to really confront what these trainers Robert Hines is doing, Mark DeBose, and you got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of trainers out there doing the same thing. Let's talk through this, and let's provide some proper context here, and let's come to, if we really care about dogs like we should, everything should halt until we figure out, okay, what's going on. But see, the culture is so corrupt that it's like that's not happening.
No, people it's an emotionally driven thing, but then it, like you said, it's also a financially driven thing. And I know and for Mark to go from that end of the spectrum to the complete opposite, but ignore everything in the middle, but wants to say the authoritative way is not correct, to me is like, well, wait a minute. Why, if you're truly looking for answers, why won't you examine that? Because the way certain people engage in a power play is not an authoritative way. It is an authoritarian way, and that's not correct. So you're trying to lump the authoritative and the authoritarian together, and that there's a very big distinction there.
Well, yeah, because authoritative, when I wrote my book, Mind and Body Connection, I talked about permissive parenting being on the rise, the spillover effect with society, and how that plays into dogs as social animals. But you're right. There's a distinction between authoritarian, which is over the top. That's not what I'm talking about. Authoritative is the agreed upon parenting style by experts. That's the right parenting style.
Yes.
And what all these trainers, what they're really looking at, if you look at the permissive parenting dynamic, that's what these trainers are really advocating. And there's so much deception in that because it changes the focus of the problem in the relationships. Like the child, because the two parents start fighting with each other. Usually one has a different attitude about parenting, right? But it changes the focus, and the real issue never gets fixed, right? And so if you look at the dog training world, all this divisiveness and all this, because really embracing a lie brings on all that, brings on confusion, and brings on hostility, and then the real issue doesn't get fixed. And that's where we're at in the dog training world. People have embraced this lie that training is something it isn't. And and now we're at this point in time where, yeah, it's like, but the good news is at least, you know, conversations are happening, and you know that's part of the course
I agree.
to sort this out. So let me bring up another clip here, and I want to we'll have a comedy moment, because this is how I see the dog training world. I'll show a clip here. So you see guys like Robert Hines talking about people, you know, some people belong in jail, you know, if they're to do what Dale's doing and all
Animal
this.
control then.
Yeah, like so I'm
'Cause
gonna.
I've told people that when they call me a dog abuser, say, hey, well, here's my city, here's my name, call animal control if you really think. And then they say, oh, well, they won't do anything. Well, then shut the fuck up.
Exactly. So here's let's bring up this is how I see the dog training world. So let me share this one. There we go. If you can see this yet.
Scare me. Put your gun away. Someone could get hurt here. This is Julian. I'm gonna control. Yeah, fuck off, lady. This is Ricky. I got my hand caught in the sink.
There's Robert Hines in his uniform.
Don't shoot the door, you dick. No, this is Julian. I was collecting control.
So
Next on the right, Randy. Let's move.
Jim Leahy, yeah, this is the Sunnyvale Trailer Park. Jail. This is how I see jail in a second. Leahy's gonna haul people to jail here in a second.
I will shoot, I promise.
So Leahy's the Trailer Park supervisor. He's having a breakdown.
Chill out, Jim.
Keep your hands.
Put on his former cop uniform.
Gentlemen, I'm
Right.
raising the man.
Right.
You know what this is?
Walkie-talkie. Jim, what are you?
Oh my God.
Jesus, what the fuck was that fucking thing?
It's a stun gun.
Where's Robert Hines?
Jim, didn't I tell you to turn that off?
So jail's coming up here in a second. His version of jail.
All right.
Give me the keys. I'm impounding this vehicle.
There's no keys for it. It's like a lawnmower.
Get out of here.
Don't take.
Bubbles,
I'm gonna
clear
start
out.
calling him Leahy.
Clear out. Clear out, Bubbles.
What's
That's
wrong
Leahy.
with you? Crazy.
Okay, everyone, clear out. We're just doing a little park cleaning here.
Go from idiot jail right here. Here it
Lady, I
is.
know you're watching me and you can probably hear me. Let me the fuck out of here, because I swear to Christ, you're gonna pay for this bullshit when I fucking bring the fucking.
That's good. I like
So-
that. That's good.
So just so you know, so when I'm dealing with character, and there seems to be a lot of characters suddenly making an appearance here on social media.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
crazy. And so I think about, you know, I can't help it. I think of the Sunnyvale Trailer Park. If anyone's seen that show, the Trailer Park Boys, that's how I see the dog training world right now. And so
Clown
it's
show.
it's a joke. So yeah, so it's and so go over to another character here briefly here. I can't help it. So you've actually exposed quite a bit of stuff here recently with some of these guys on making comments. Where is this guy at? You know, people like appearing out of nowhere, it seems. And
And saying they're better than everybody. Yeah, that's
yeah, I mean that's the incredible.
But showing no work, Dale. Show no work. But say you're better, but show no work.
Absolutely showing no. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, here we
Show no
go.
work.
There we go. I don't know if you see this guy.
No, I knew that. I knew that's what you're talking about.
Huge problem. And it's obfuscating the truth from many people in the
Yep.
public. I am the Ralph Nader in the dog
Oh,
realm,
yeah.
and the Kevin Samuels in the dog realm. I don't care if you like.
So it's the just brief clip there. So it's this guy, and again, he appeared out of nowhere on my channel. Start talking about the quarter pounder, half mile Jedi mind trick
Oh, yeah.
challenge.
Yeah.
And I'm like, who is this guy? And so same thing, you know, you did a little research to say that a lot of people are coming forward. And it's like they say it's like they're coming out of nowhere. But the dog training world is, to me, is so corrupt. It's like people are coming forward saying they have a background in this or that, and then when you do a little research, and you know, props to you, because same thing is you do. And sometimes I just write people, you know, sometimes and now I'm starting to focus in on certain situations, and I'm responding to even some of the comments, because I just had a comment today on one of my videos from an interesting. The video will be, I'll be putting the video up in a couple of days. I have it scheduled, but it was you know, when the person had all sorts of discouraging things to say on one of my service dog training videos, and I'm like, well, who is this person? then when you go into it, you say, oh, this person, Robert Hines follower. And then you look at their, right? So it just, there's this pattern of people who, it's almost like a, a mob mentality where these people will come into your channel and they just leave all these disparaging comments. And it's like, okay, but I'm like, okay, hold on here a second. Let's actually, like, what's their foundation? Like, what are they standing on here when they're making disparaging comments about what you do as a trainer? Or so it's just like enough is enough.
Yeah, you know what's funny about that, about the Clugston thing in particular, is that Hines was railing against him months ago, and now the two of them are buddy buddy. And
Yes.
I'm thinking, well, wait a minute, doesn't Clugston represent everything you hate about the dog world, dog training? I mean, he's training dogs, but because Clugston wants to make this distinction between training is skill based and which, funny enough, he wasn't saying anything about that until I started making videos talking about how my perspective is training is skill. But wait a minute, now you guys want to be you want to team up with a guy you were talking so much shit about 4 months ago. And funny enough, Clugston banned me from his channel after I posted that video. Like, I can't comment on his videos now.
Okay.
And he wants to say he's a master linguist and he's fought in 3 different countries or whatever. I'm like, well, first of all, your military records don't indicate that. And every time I call him out on it, he won't acknowledge it.
No.
Yeah, he won't answer. But no, he keeps going on about how I can't train a bomb, and I keep saying, dude, I'm not a dog trainer. So you're basically coming to me like, say, if I was a brain surgeon and you're a heart surgeon, you're trying to tell me, well, I can't do heart surgery. Well, dude, I do brain surgery. I don't do heart surgery. So what's your point?
Well,
exactly.
Yeah, it's like these people are saying before, because he made a comment on my channel, like Dale was never a canine trainer, he was a handler. Well, then I just put the link up there with my, my newspaper articles that show everything. Because that's the thing is, I don't have to think about stuff because I'm not lying about anything. I have no reason to lie about anything. But I don't promote myself a certain way. You won't see trophies in the background and me talking a certain way, because I get to a point now where either you know what you're talking about or you don't. And I don't talk about myself a certain way because that changes the focus, away from the owner onto me a certain way.
Right.
And I'm trying to sell what exactly. So, so I'm like, to the anti-dog trainer, I'm like the anti-marketer, because in a lot of ways I don't subscribe to the dog training world, how things are being marketed.
Yeah.
And almost too much the other way, in a way, because I've always done from the beginning, what I continue to do is just help individual dogs and owners. That's always been my thing. And so even on my YouTube channel, if you go back 15 years ago, you're going to hear me saying the same thing over and over again. I've never wavered back and forth. Like, these trainers are all over the map from month to month. They're changing their views on, say, remote collars or issues related to different things. And the dog training world is in such chaos as a result.
And here's the thing I want to point out too. I find it very interesting to that point about it. This is about the dog and the owner.
Yeah.
So these people the Heinzes of the world, or the people that claim they're better than everybody else. Well, wait a minute. I don't see you showcasing any owners on your channel. Like, what have you done for the owners? You make your focus is all about the dog, but yet you say it's about the relationship between the dog and the owner. But I don't see you ever show any indication that the relationship between the dog and owner is better because of the advice you're giving. That's why I have a series on my channel called "When Dog Owners Do the Hard Work." So I have more than one owner on my channel, which can show, hey, this is actually benefiting the people it's supposed to. So where is your demonstration that the owners are actually creating the right bond with their dog? I don't see any of that on Heinz's channel. And now Dubose does have comments of people saying, he's helping them. So I'm not going to take that away from him. But where's Clugston's? Well, and these other people that say they're better than everybody.
Yeah, because and the thing is too, because a lot of it's superficial anyway. So to even get into this thing about positive reviews and stuff, Zach George could have all sorts of positive reviews, but you have to go into the depth of, okay, what is that dog? Is that relationship actually better the right way? I mean, that's really what it comes down to. How do you even establish that with these trainers that are all superficially focused? And so to go there is a kind of a different conversation, because you have to get into this thing about why so many dogs are getting blamed, why the current state of the dog training world, because a lot of people buy into this stuff, as you know, Kevin, because they're telling people what they want to hear. And so they'll defend some of these people to the end anyway, even when their own dogs are a mess. Look at I call it Montygate. But look at Robert Hines, situation there. I mean, he's contradicting himself all over the place, talking about his dog's a mess, and then suddenly now that was like inconvenient truth, and he puts out a video. Oh, look, my dog off leash and how great it is. I'm like trying to say that's a joke. I mean, just at least be honest. It's like the shifting sands, right? It's like they'll just tell people what they want to hear, but it's like they're not consistent in what they say. And this goes into the whole thing with the rooster attack or Mullen thing with, I got into that thing because of saying, well, he's trying to kind of convolute and separate things. I'm pinning, like he did a great job pinning them down, saying, well, if you have control over that rooster, you should be saying, hey, stop. And, because it's about relationship, the perception of the dog extend in and through the relationship the right way, then you have control. It's part of you, it's part, so that dog isn't just mauling that rooster. It's a joke. And then you start using the example of police canine, which is my background, saying, oh, the dog completes the job and keeps biting the guy with the guy's
right.
That's a joke. It's
right.
Like that's no. It's like no. I had police dogs fully trained, never had an accidental bite the whole time, fully trained, had to use them that way. And no, it's like you have control. The dog goes in. It's the use of force. The dog stop. Hey, the police officers are handling they're putting the handcuffs on the dog. You out the dog. The dog responds. I mean, it's right relationship. That dog's an extension. So he's just misrepresenting everything because it has to fit into his permissive narrative. You know what I'm saying? Because he has to try to explain the stuff away. But once you get into the details of it, you say, "No, these guys are totally misrepresenting everything." And then he's trying to say, well, he should be able to just sit on his porch like a TV show, The Waltons, and just talk about, and don't get me wrong, I'm not taking anything away from if you want to talk about your life journey and everyone.
Yeah, that's fine. Broken. And actually, it's great. Yeah, and I actually like the conversation you have with Christian. Like, I agree with what you guys said there, where it's like, I do find Mark entertaining sometimes. We're like, sit on your porch and talk about your journey and what you're.
That's great.
I got nothing wrong with that. But when you want to start giving advice to people about dogs,
start getting that's right. You start go there with the dog, and that's why I say you start to put out the information, and then you're aligned with Robert Hines, and Robert Hines is using that as a catalyst to try to tear people down. Then now you got my attention. Then you make a comment saying I'm destroying dogs. Well, guess what? You can't have your cake and eat it too here. It's like you want to talk about your journey and what you've been through and help other people. I think that's fantastic. But if you want to start to convolute the conversation with saying, okay, this is a way forward with dogs through this permissiveness, and then people are adopting that, no. Okay, you're going to get my attention a little bit, and then I'm going to move on. But it's been hard to move on lately because every time I get to the point where I say, okay, Dale, I'm going to leave this behind with Robert Hines, and then they say something else stupid directed at me, and it's like, okay, Dale, you got to do another video. But that's what's going to happen. You know what? I'm done with just like, but I'm going to do it in a way that's information based. It's not if you're watching them, it's not about getting personal with these guys. They're going to take it very personal.
Yeah, I have nothing personally. Well, I don't have anything personal against Mark. But Robert, I find to be so disingenuous, so hypocritical, and so like I don't respect him as a human being. So at that level, I don't mind getting personal with him because I don't find him to be a stand-up individual.
He's not. He's not. And then, just the fact that he released all those consults on that girl. Don't get me wrong, that girl, she's bouncing all over the place between Zach George and Robert Cabral. But that's not even the point. Like people are on their journey, right? So. But the point is, to any conversations I have that are consults, if people don't look after
private information,
I would never release that stuff. So ethically and morally, I just wouldn't do it. But you're right. That's why I never had a debate with Robert Hines, because for me, there's not even a starting point in that conversation, because through Skinner, he keeps bringing up Skinner and all this Skinner saying there's no starting point because there's no foundation. When I talk about the social aspect of the relationship, he totally dismisses all that. So
that's the thing I don't understand, because he was making these posts about me after the debate, which I saw no point in responding, because I'm like, well, I've pointed out so many contradictions that you never address. So why should I, rather than disproving me with information, you just you engage in this verbal diarrhea, and I'm supposed to take it seriously.
Well, it's a power play too, Kevin. It's almost like what happens is like they're saying, well, you have to engage with me. you know, because the skin, like that's their default setting, as though they're in control of everything. It's a control issue. So, and that's why people will use certain language to try to shut down a conversation. They'll start to say you're toxic, and Zach George is big on that. But what they're trying to do, they're trying to power play using language to try to shut down or censor or stop people from questioning, right? And so people aren't stupid. Like, and I tell people, don't play into that. These people are exploiting everything. They're trying to censor or shut people down. But you're right, Robert Hines the same way. He's like, no, it's like if I choose I don't want to have a conversation with you, maybe it's just because I don't respect you. You know what I'm saying? Because you're just not a good person. I just don't want to sit down and talk to you. I mean,
and I don't see anything there's nothing in those posts. Like, you want to sit and debate the ideas, that's fine. But when I've already made it clear that Skinner is not relevant to the social nature of a dog, which he said, I made that point, like in my debate, I said, hey, where's Skinner talk about respect? Well, he made a post saying, well, Skinner never talked about respect. And I'm like, you're just further, just said what I said. So you're basically reinforcing what I, what does it respond to? You basically just validated my point. So
absolutely.
What, and see, this is like, to the notion of respect. Where does Skinner ever make we want to reduce things to behavior. Where does Skinner ever talk about the difference in a dog's behavior when they do respect you versus when they don't respect you? Where's the distinction in Skinner's work?
There is none there, because it's just one dimensional. In fact, what they do through behavioralism, they said, well, because it's in my book, there's several moments there where like clues that this is all going to go sideways with their studies, because they dismissed it. They say, oh, because we can't understand the mind of a dog, we're just going to strictly stick to external, just stimulus, at that level. And that was the flaw. And so, but everything's been on a slow boil since. It's just like the dog training world asks the question, people should need to ask is, has it gotten better or worse? You know what I'm saying? So, for people to be out there to say, oh, well, we got the answers. Well, if you got the answers, you wouldn't be on my videos leaving disparaging comments. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's so many red flags that just common sense to say, this is a mess. This is not science. It's not confronting the real issue here. These trainers are turned over to this stuff because it's a type of identity crisis. You want to know why people get so angry and upset. And in one of my videos, I made the point, when Robert Hines, you can hear him breathing in the background like Darth Vader. Like Darth Vader. He's like so mad, right? It's just like, okay, what are you so mad about? If this is science, we should be able to talk to it. But we
should be able to rationally there's that word objective again, Robert, that you hate so much. We should be able to objectively discuss these things.
Yes, but that's not what this is about. This is about a agenda. And just like Zach George, you see he's on that slippery slope. Same thing. He brings all this stuff in, toxic masculinity. He's like completely off the deep end. And things are just, because if the truth is subjective, I say anything goes. If you can't define what a process is, or even in terms of the relationship that way, then that's what's happening. That's why people are in this mess in the dog training world. So it's bad. So on that note, we'll probably pick this up again in terms of another sit-down conversation. I really enjoyed having you on, Kevin. I really
definitely thank you.
Appreciate to get your.
Can I just say one thing real quick before I go?
Absolutely, yeah.
I just want to make this point for people that are watching. Like, we don't have to all agree on everything.
Sure.
There are people that I respect in the dog world that there are certain things I don't agree with, but they're showing their work, they get results, and they're doing it. So this idea that people see like it has to be an all or nothing thing, I just want people to get out of this way of thinking of like, just because two people can sit down and have a respectful dialogue doesn't mean we don't have differences or disagreements in how we do things.
Sure.
So, and that doesn't mean we can't respect each other. And so I just want people to take that away. There are things we do very differently, Dale, but the understanding of these problems is the same. And so I just want people to take that away, that we might not do everything the same way, but that doesn't mean we can't all sit in a room and discuss these ideas.
Well, absolutely. And I think we're pretty close on a lot of things. There might be some differences, but the point of it all, you're right. It should be a respectful way in which, because if it is really about science and about information, then you should be able to have that discussion, even if it's a tough conversation, because in order to arrive at what the truth is, you got to have that kind of conversation where someone might get offended a little bit, but you can still work through it. You can say, okay, at least I respect the fact that they're being respectful, and
Definitely.
we can arrive at, because everyone is on a journey, right? Their own journey towards finding answers. I mean, ultimately, that's what it's about. So, so if people are wanting to find you, Kevin, or get in touch with you, how would they go about doing that in terms of if they need help with your dog in your area? How would they contact you, or what's the process for that?
Well, if you want to find me on social media, my at username is the Anti-Dog Trainer on Instagram, TikTok, but on YouTube, you can find me using that on YouTube. But my channel name is Act Like a Human, Think Like a Dog. I have a Facebook page, Act Like a Human, Think Like a Dog. But if you wanted to reach me, I would say get on Facebook, on my personal Facebook, or well, you could send me a message on my business page or my personal. Just find me a messenger, shoot me a message, or my email is actually linked in my video, my channel information. If you wanted to email me, you could do that as well.
Okay.
At kevinjmurdoch@yahoo.com. Otherwise, just find me on Facebook and send me a message.
Okay, great, super. Well, I appreciate you coming on, and I'll definitely have you on again, Kevin. Really appreciate your insight and helping dogs out. That's fantastic the way you do it. And so we'll definitely have you on again, Kevin. Appreciate you being here.
Thanks, Dale. Appreciate you having me, man.
All right.
All right. Take care.